We are recording this episode about 3 hours later than we would have liked to have started, but we're doing that because I got good internet turned on today, which is to say, yes, for however long I've been working at home and for however long I have lived in this house, 5.5 years, I have been working with between 42 and 56 meg internet. And as of today, for the first time as an adult who's been working from home for nearly a year, I have gig internet. And let me tell you something. It's interesting to see you people in real time and not spend an entire recording session just panicking while I wait for my internet to drop on this Zoom call. So here is a cheers to the internet. It seems like a real thing, and I think it's going to make it.
So many beers, it's hard to pick all the best moments we are taken with. So now we look back and we all reminisce the memorable ones from the Mix 6.
Hey everybody, I'm Caleb.
I'm Spencer.
And this is the Mix 6, where we drink 6 beers, have 6 conversations, rate them on a 5-point scale, and occasionally survive existential crisis to the concept of democracy in the nation in which we live. Not going to dance around it.
Occasionally.
Yeah, just dive in. Not unlike a man in a Viking helmet would dive into.
Not a helmet. It was furs. It was like a fucking buffalo.
A whole garb, we might say.
Yeah, a garb. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Just FYI, producer Ross, my objection to his actions didn't really go along with the nomenclature of his headwear.
That's the sole purpose of this episode, to debate what that man was wearing and what we might
really
call
I was really shooting for like a different critique of his ethos, but you could
I'm role-playing as the commenters.
Okay. Thanks. Good. We don't have enough of those comments.
Producer Ross taking
I often
mainstream
think, hey,
media.
boy, I wish I had some more of those. You son of a bitch. We pay you. I don't know. You're hourly for this. What are we
Powerful
What are we doing here?
You get what you pay for.
Stuff.
All right.
Potent insight from producer Ross. Anyways, we have no pre-party. Folks, let's not lie. If 2021 taught us anything, it's that there are no parties to have, pre or post. And so we got nowhere to go because there's still a pandemic. In fact, in case you weren't following along, it's worse than it's ever been. So we're going to stay right here. We're going to stay right here in our homes for God knows how long. And in
another
the meantime,
good subtitle for the show. It's worse than it's ever been.
Worse than it's ever been. Yeah. Probably a really bad pandemic in 2021. But we are rating our beers today on a 5-point system developed by our one and only Caleb Stokes. So Caleb, what are we using today to rate and review our beers?
Well, again, owing to our habitual tardiness, these were moments from the coup, a rating list I made right after the coup. And it had now been 3 weeks, but I think it holds up. So it's got it's survived the test of time. I still stand by this. So
yeah, absolutely.
These are moments of watching the coup rated by how they would taste as a beer. So a 1, which is a moment that you do not want to see, and a beer you do not want to drink. Just guns. I'm over them in general. I don't like looking at them. I don't like thinking about them. Seeing them in pictures, also bad. Wasn't into it. That's a 1 beer, just really out. So a 2 is the cops and their "come on boys" attitude. So the cops, pretty 2 at the best of times. But now, being nakedly awful, I do get a bit of Schadenfreude in it before I am temporarily reminded that they do still have power over life and death over me. So that's like a 2 experience. Like you get a little hint of something enjoyable, but it is quickly snatched away. So a 3, which is your baseline, your sine waves are canceling each other out. It's neutral. No-fly list montage videos. Now, here's the thing. I don't think a no-fly list should exist. If it has to, and it spends time tackling Karens next to airport Cinnabons.
That's right.
I'm okay with that. That's a 3 beer. Like it could
Guilty
have been
pleasure.
great.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been awful. It's kind of both at the same time. So it's meh. So give me a no-fly list montage. And that one really depends on the music you set it to. It's really about DJing. So it's 2 variable. It's got to be a 3. Now a 4, which is an all-around good, you're getting just positive. Nuking Parler et al. From Orbit, and having it just become radioactive to the people who were on it. Brilliant, wonderful.
The data leak.
Yeah.
Could we lump under this maybe as an umbrella the many ways in which the internet has turned on that community? The Parler nuke is probably the case example, but all of the ways in which the internet has now turned itself against that community has been really something to watch.
One of the things I like about it the most is someone leaked, like, Parler's looking for a new web hosting because Amazon kicked them off, and people have leaked what their data requirements are for a new web host. And what people are doing now is people are shit talking the tech spec requirements of Parler because it proves that they're not, like, the people programming it, the technical people behind Parler are incompetent because, like, oh, you don't need that many, you don't need that much RAM and storage. You're like, what the fuck? You don't need all this shit. What the fuck are you talking about? God, these people, what the fuck is wrong with them? They're a bunch of fucking, like, because like, the best example is that the people who run Pirate Bay, a group of unemployed, alcoholic, and drug-using students, children in some cases, and, like, unemployable people, have managed to evade the wrath of the developed world to run their pirate site. And
of like 20 years.
Yeah, for 20 years. And, like, Parler, which is backed by DeVos money, by Eric Prince, and, like, all these other reprehensible people with billions of dollars, can't do it because they have money, but they don't have competence. So
here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a 4, though, because it's the internet. So it's ultimately not
That's
real.
right.
They will have some consequences, but it's not going to have a big effect in the real world. They'll just find another 8chan, or it'll become 16chan, or whatever. You got to go with real things.
Yeah, no,
so here's
I
the
know.
thing.
But I love that nuance of it. So,
yeah. So here's that hard 5 experience, that praxis, that materialism we here at the Mix 6 love. Storming a 5 experience in the coup, seeing a guy die during the coup, having the internet say he died by tasing himself in the balls so hard he pissed himself, then slipped on the piss, then fell down a flight of stairs, and then had a heart attack. Knowing the second you hear it that is not true, it sounds too good to be true, but then seeing meta news stories about the family of the guy who died of just a heart attack during the coup, going on to Snopes.com to say that he didn't die tasing himself in the ball, a website that they themselves ignored their entire lives in order to become so stupid and queued up that they in turn die in the Capitol being mistaken as tasing themselves in the balls to death. It's just an Ouroboros of stupid. It's so amazing how it eats its tail endlessly, semantically, referentially, and that's a 5 experience. It changes your understanding of beer, just like that changed my understanding
Language.
of political reality. Yeah, language.
I want, like, you know how Mulder had the I want to believe UFO poster? I want a new version of that, of a dude tasting himself in the balls. Like, I want
know
to
artists that could make that for us.
Yeah. Like that I want to believe a dude
I want
died.
to believe it is just like a Ben Garrison political cartoon of a guy tasting himself in the balls to death.
I don't care what Snopes says. I believe it because I want to believe it.
Hey,
therefore
it's stop QAnon. Why can't we do it? Have some
Yeah,
fun.
let
That's
me do it for once. I'm tired of being in reality. Fuck it. I want to fucking believe.
I will take over the Springfield comptroller office to prove that man died
Taser balls.
tasering his balls. The evidence is in my local pizza place's basement.
Well, I'm going to get a beer, and
Yeah.
at this point, I can only hope it's a 5, so we can do all this over again.
Hey, Spencer, what are you drinking?
A couple of weeks ago on a different episode, you had one of what I believe is the Omnipolo series they're now doing. They have a couple of different beers which prominently feature like maple syrup inside other things.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, you were not a fan.
No, it was hell. It was, yeah.
I believe you had the raspberry.
She used the
sour.
current rating system. It tasted like a gun in my mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is another of that series. This is Omnipolo's Bianca. Now listen to
Thank
this.
God. I'm glad you get to experience this as well.
Yeah. This is a blueberry maple pancake lassi goza.
Oh man, I'm the one who even likes blueberries. You're in trouble. Okay.
You don't like blueberries, Spencer?
They have a very specific use case for me, and it is very limited.
They're antioxidants. They're
I don't give a shit. I like oxidants. So
I'm betting that one of those uses isn't what is about to happen.
Oh, not at all. I can
bet
smell.
in fact it's quite a very different purpose.
Here's what this beer smells like to me, and I don't mean to be so crude on the microphone. I've never done it before. I'll never do it again. But you know when you walk into a room and someone has peed at some point in that room, there's a pungency to the whole thing.
The asparagus smell.
That's what I'm getting now in my so anyways, here we go.
Would you get in there, you coward? Buy the ticket, take the ride. All right.
Oh man, he took a sip and then like looked away.
Do it. Yeah,
It's a
it was
tall
one of the
boy
worst
can,
things
too.
I've ever
I
had.
wonder how
It was
much of the-
disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's not just me. Yeah, that's just poison.
It's the worst.
So gross.
It's so many bad parts of so many bad things. It's the
That they
worst
didn't
part
recall
of the
that
movie.
is baffling to me. Like that was
Oh my
the
God.
intended experience. This
Like
is how
where,
you choose to represent yourself. All right.
where I feel like I would have gills is hot right now, and so that's how I feel about this beer. It is the worst part of blueberry for me, which is not even really the sour part. It's the like bad tart, like not enjoyable kind of sweet. It's the bad tart. So it's got like bad flavored blueberry that sits right on top of a thick crust of artificial maple syrup. So like you've just over-drenched a pancake, and now there's no longer a pancake there. The pancake has just become a vehicle for too much, not very good maple syrup. And then on the bottom, it's just sweet. I mean, it's just like overly wrought sugar. So it's a 1. In case my description and or response was not accurate enough. If you are at the point that we are at, by the way, you're 800 plus, 900 plus beers deep, and you're just looking to try something you've not tried in a can before, I can tell you this fits that criterion. I have not consumed a beer that tasted like this. Now, I think there are reasons for that. And I certainly hope to not consume more beer that tastes like this. Now, it just so happens I have the other one in this series on tap for a little bit later in this episode. But I would not recommend enjoying this beer. I don't think you could. So,
And he went back. And
I just want to make sure. Okay. So,
this is your topic, man. You got to get through this. You
I
gotta
know.
tell us what to do.
I have to keep going. We're into Dissecting Our Fun, which is, of course, where we talk about board games and or board game related concepts or ideas. And so I've encountered this thing the other day. We were playing Carpe Diem, which is a Stefan Feld game a couple of weeks ago. And I happen to like Stefan Feld games. I've talked in the past about how much I enjoy Castles of Burgundy. I kind of think like Feld's overwrought, slightly too many mechanics approach is interesting, and I kind of like that stuff. But Carpe Diem, which is kind of a fun game, and it's a little bit lighter than Castles of Burgundy, so if you were looking to expand your game collection, Carpe Diem might be an interesting addition. But it runs into an issue that we've skirted around in the past and probably describes more games than we would like to think. And I wanted to get your take on this issue. Carpe Diem has the engine length of game problem. And I'm curious your take on this. Is this something that can really wreck a game for you?
Cut it off right as you're about to get started thing? Yeah.
That's exactly right. So Carpe Diem has a variety of different little mechanics or economies that you can get going. And that's kind of exciting, right? I mean, in some ways, that's precisely what we're looking for in board games, opportunities to get engines going. And so there are a lot of little engines that you can get going in Carpe Diem, which, by the way, is really just like a kind of like a contrived tile placement game. But I enjoy it. I mean, that's not to say that I didn't like the game. But My central problem with the game is there are all these different ways that you can get things going, little things you can trigger to get a few extra actions here, little economies you can start spinning up to get a few extra points here and there. But the game only lasts 4 rounds, and a round is not in and of itself particularly long. And so by the time the game ends, you feel decidedly unfulfilled in your ability to get one of the many engines that you've kind of started to dip your toes in going. And the games that handle this well do a good job of letting you try a few engines early in the game, figure out based on either strategic competitive advantage, i.e. what you're doing as compared to your neighbors, or personal interest, which engine you like the most, and then kind of lean into and let that thing really start to harvest over time. Carpe Diem did not give you that test it out, get it working, let it hum. It did not give you that crescendo of a gaming experience. Instead, it was all kind of tested out and hope one of these things is a little bit better than the others. So I really have 2 questions here. Question number 1 is, what do you do in those moments? So now when I sit back down to play Carpe Diem again, do I try to do what I think is suboptimal gameplay in terms of winning, but instead lean into one of the mechanics knowing that it couldn't possibly be the only way or the optimal way for winning the game? So how do you approach a game like that the next time you sit down for it? And 2 is it hard for you to go back to a game when you know very clearly there's a better version of the game just on the other side, but now you're not playing that version of the game, which is once you've idealized the game in your mind and know what it's capable of and also know that it's not built to do that, does that diminish ruin your ability to play the game in the future?
I don't know. That seems to me like a Stefan Feld problem. I also kind of have this problem with like Raiders and stuff. Like
Yes. Raiders is definitely like this.
In a lot of Euro games that I like the economic kind, like so for instance, Coimbra or Terraforming Mars, or any of those engine builders, there are trap options. Trap options in the tech tree that take too long to develop. Like for Terraforming Mars, I think of microbes. Like if you have it the first turn, play it, and you might get 4 or 5 points off it by the end, if you remember to do it every time. Right. Otherwise, dedicating too many resources to that shit is just going to be, it's a trap option.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it wouldn't be a trap option along a long enough timeline because of the growth scale for the math. But it is a trap option in considering the length of the game you are going to play.
That's exactly.
But with a Stefan Feld game or a Raiders game, a Shim Phillips game or something like that, what I always feel is like, what if everything was a trap option? What if everything didn't have enough time to develop and couldn't build a strategy around? So I think the only thing to do when you do that is to just, I think what you have to do with those kind of games is experiment. And by experiment, I mean, commit entirely. Like you just have to find an engine part and maximize the shit out of it and become the wood guy or whatever the resource is in the game.
Dominate one thing and hope that thing is enough.
Yeah, and then if that doesn't work, then you probably need to adopt some mixed strategy, but you only get that by learning the mechanics. And that's the other thing. There's a difference between a game that is easy to learn and difficult to master versus a game that is just difficult to master. There are games in which the first and second and third play are not about competing. It's just about making sure you got the rules right.
Right.
And I feel like these games are often that. And one thing they do is they make sure they're short enough that you don't feel that bad setting it up again, or at least they try to. Because if they shorten it, it's not that bad to break it out again. And this time we know what we're doing. And
I do feel like it's kind of purpose. That what if it was a Stefan Feld game that felt like a junior Stefan Feld game? You know what I mean? Like it had some of the pieces in place that kind of like look like, smell like Stefan Feld stuff, but are easy enough to set up, easier to get to the table, don't require the same kind of commitment or slog that, say, a Castles of Burgundy might. And so, therefore, the input is kind of equal to the output, which is to say Castles of Burgundy is a fuck ton of input, and the output is you want a board game. Carpe Diem, not a fuck ton of input. Also, the output is you want a board game. And so, in some ways, there is a investment issue, which is it's just a lot easier to get to the table than Castles of Burgundy is. I mean, I can get Carpe Diem to the table in like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Castles of Burgundy, it's going to be a bit. The question though for me then, so the second question here is a limited number of time to encounter games and have experienced, really it's the same way with beer now, right? Have experienced enough games at this point, I kind of know what my favorites are. So outside of just seeing what else exists in the universe, when you encounter a game and know like, it's a 6 out of 10, but I know that if it went 2 more rounds, it'd be an 8 or a 9 out of 10, but it's not going 2 more rounds. Do you go back to that stuff, or does that thing take up a pretty firm shelf slot in your brain, and then that's where it stays?
I mean, it's changed during COVID because we are trying to be more completionist here in the Stokes household, but
right.
You know I'm a magpie.
Right, yeah.
If you're going to come at me with a 6 out of 10, you'll be the 6 out of 10, and then I will move on to another wonderful game because there's just too fucking many of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't waste time with that kind of stuff. Which is not to say that Stefan Feld is a bad designer or that like I'm better than Feld or anything like that. It's just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Just like certain levels of Ameritrash aren't my cup of tea. That's
Absolutely.
a level of Euro game that I just no thank you. Like I can't go back to. Just like I wouldn't want to play Zombie Side because okay, it does Ameritrash well, but I don't want that Ameritrash.
But I don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's all I would say about it. I wouldn't mourn it too hard just because like you're supposed to like Stefan Feld more.
Yeah. I don't know that it was heartbreaking, but it was definitely a little surprising. And I'm curious, not necessarily about Stefan Feld games, but if anybody listening has other games that are good examples of this, that you feel like the engine is there, but they don't give you the amount of road you need to get the car going. I'm curious what else people would identify as part and parcel of this problem. And with that, Caleb's going to get a beer, and I hope for his sake and for your sake, it is better than the beer that I consumed, and we'll be right back. Caleb, what are you drinking?
I am drinking from Crooked Stave's Artisan Beer Project, Librette de Blueberry, which is their golden sour ale aged in oak barrels with Washington blueberries. Full disclosure, I didn't have any side beers, and this was a growler, so I just started drinking the second we hit record. It's very good. I just have been quiet about it. It's a hard 5. It's delicious. You can taste the sort of amberish of the golden in it. And what Spencer refers to as the bad funk or bad tart of a blueberry actually does a wonderful job accentuating the sour note of this. This is tasing yourself in the balls and dying in a 2. This is a hard 5. Yeah.
If you were looking to get into sour beers, like you decided, I like this, I want to try more of them or see all the ways in which sour can do things in beer, you could do worse than to start with Crooked Stave's line of Brett beers, which is their funky yeast beers. Mm-hmm. They're also now doing some of their like run-of-the-mill great sours in 16-ounce cans, blueberry, peach, etc. And they also have their Petite Sour Rosé in 12-ounce cans, which is just one of the best 6-pack can purchases I think you can make. So if you're looking to try sours, Crooked Stave, it's a little higher in price point, but it's also higher quality in terms of sours.
It's definitely worth the cost if you have like a special occasion, like drinking alone and talking to a webcam in your home office. Yeah.
Yeah. Get a bomber.
Save it.
And
save
really
it for something special that you really want to commemorate.
What are we talking about?
Anyway, it's Jukebox and Back, and Copernicus Crane first suggested that he wanted to know which album we would pick to montage ourselves becoming karate masters. But that just seems sort of frivolous to become karate masters for no reason. So Chris Reed suggested we're all even more pissed off about Nazis and shitheads in America. In Jukebox and Back, what are the best fight songs to punch Nazis to? So we are Nazi Punch Force, I guess. And if we trained for it, what do you listen to? And then what do you listen to as you do it?
Yeah, because I think those are important distinctions, right? So training is different than seeing it as a visual cinematic masterpiece, the montage of. Mm-hmm. So training, I'll tell you the thing that gets me like the most worked up is either like whatever bad semi-pop, techno-pop music you can put into my brain. So just anything that sounds like it was produced on a MacBook Pro from like 2000 to 2020 probably is something that I am willing to listen to train. Now, here's where I get off the boat a little bit on fight songs for this. I think that we are at a time where there's so much beauty in this act and so much reverence for this that rather than listen to your traditional, like the Ramones, but these like traditional kind of like punk moment, like high octane fight songs, I instead think we should be listening to something like Leon Bridges or St. Paul and the Broken Bones. That there almost needs to be
just soul music.
Some like soul music in the background to really demonstrate how connected to
I would
the
like to punch
emotion.
Nazis while listening to the Sissy Strut by the Meters. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Boom.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe some doo-wop. Give me Lauryn Hill in the background. You know what I mean? Like something that really sets the tone for this is actually an act of calm, soul-driven, essence-finding moment for you. And so we'll back it up with, Leon Bridges Coming Home or something. I mean, and so that's how I would handle this.
Okay. I think I'm going to train to Real Human Being from Drive because
Yes.
got to represent my boy Ryan.
Let's do anything to Real Human Being from Drive.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. The song I want to listen to while punching Nazis depends on the Nazi. Like if you're going to punch Johnny Rotten, you have to listen to the Sex Pistols. The irony is too good. But then there's like, if it's just general Nazis and I have the ability to make a reference to the Norm Macdonald film Dirty Work, I will. And the funniest scene in that movie, and maybe any movie, is we need some fight music. G7, Dude You Hit G8, and Do You Love Pina Coladas comes on during the fight scene in the bar. I would love to punch some Nazis to Do You Love, because I think A, Mr. Buffett would approve.
Absolutely.
I think B, it's an inversion of the Boogaloo Boy trope. The luau has turned, so to speak. The revenge of the luau, as Mr. Buffett may call it. So yeah, I think that's my more general Nazi. But otherwise, I think you really need to pick a song like Gorka. It's got to be like Carmina Burmana, like for Movement 1, Fortuna Impertex Domine. Like you got to do something fitting, killing a man in a volcano lair. So fit the context of the Nazi.
Oh, sure.
Punch it, is so to say. But Real Human Being for training, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ross?
I think for training, actually, I think Bob Marley. Just all of his music. I think
so you're not training rigorously.
No, I think you can train rigorously. I'm going to be inspired by
That was
Bob
such a
Marley.
window into Ross Payton's soul right there.
Okay, so when I was growing up, my brother was really into boxing and kickboxing, and my parents were like, well, he's working out, you're going to go work out with him because we want you out of the house. And so we go to this boxing gym on Commercial Street, Lewis's boxing gym, and they just blasted like Bob Marley while we both learned to box. And like that was... So like that is what I associate for actual fight training, because that was actually what we listened to over and over again. So yeah, Bob Marley for training. And then I'm of two minds for the actual fighting. One would be Future Funk because it's awesome. Great. I get to punch Nazis. Or the Hotline Miami soundtrack because I just really want to fuck people up with a hammer. I'm wearing a chicken mask in this scenario, and I have a letter jacket, and these Nazis have to die, and I have a hammer in my hand. So Perturbator is screaming in my head, and I need to fulfill the urges. So so one of the but Future Funk's just general like I'm doing fun things kind of music.
Funny story, when I took judo for years, it was at a YMCA next to a ballroom dancing class. So the music of my fight training is very different.
Yeah,
Similar skill sets.
Yeah, but why?
Like I get pissed off when I enter nursing homes and get very anxious and ready to go. Like,
Yeah, but it's already ingrained in you. Why fight it? Tap into that.
Just let myself go.
Yeah.
Unleash it,
Grandma
man.
and
Yeah, you need
Start
that. Well,
hit throwing
use
her.
that ballroom music to for your training sequence. Then, like that's key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's what violence looks like for us, and it is truly poetic. And on that note, we're going to grab more beer, and we'll be right back.
hey, producer Ross, what are you drinking?
This is from Firestone Walker Brewing Company, which we have liked their stuff before. They do the very fancy bottles. But this is
Inside fancy boxes.
Yeah, inside fancy. This is not. This was a 6-pack of Luponic Distortion IPA series. It is a IPA with hints of peach, pear drop, and dragon fruit. And it's got a nice little can with a little floral, well, I don't know, kind of tie-dye pattern. Anyways.
I have to assume that they would do a good IPA because they've done a good everything. But again, it's the Ameritrash problem.
Dragon fruit. What?
Yeah. Dragon fruit I actually like. It's a very mild fruit if you've never had it. It's like
Yeah, but I've never had it in an IPA before.
I don't really taste it, but dragon fruit again is a very mild fruit, so I don't know if it would stand out. I do detect the sort of the fruitiness of it, and it's sort of like a floral taste. I mean, as IPAs go, it's pretty nice. It's very drinkable, very kind of light and medium body, I guess.
So more Citra than Simcoe hops.
Yeah, more citrus. It doesn't linger. There's very little aftertaste. It just kind of like here's a little fruitiness. Here's a little. Well, there's the hops, and then it kind of disappears. So
Cool.
yeah, there's the sweetness to it. But yeah, yeah, it's a nice IPA. I'm not going to give it a 4, but I think it deserves a 3. Like if you like IPAs, I'm sure you'd really like. I don't. As a rule, I hate IPA, so this is very high by my.
Much like a no-fly list.
Yeah, much like a fly.
If IPAs have to exist, I mean, it might as well be this one.
Yeah, so I mean, you could do a lot worse than Luponic or Firestone. Firestone's it's just a hot. They're a pretty good brewery.
Yeah.
So far.
Cool. In this segment, we are talking about your number one vote getter. This was a mistake. Kind of touches on a question that Sean Wayland asked us. He said, Biden has talked about how Trump exceeded the worst notions about him, and Trump's own staff is surprised that he actually did it. But is it helpful to read this as emblematic of people waking up to the real world? If even some centrists are being persuaded that fascism is as dangerous as leftists have said all along, how should we respond to them? I think that's a good question. I think the mistake would be to let anyone who is a centrist ever respond to you ever again with an argument from president. Just don't allow it. Interrupt them. Instantly they say anything. And before they can, what about when you were wrong and you said blah, blah, blah. No. What about when you were wrong for a decade? Like, what about when you were wrong and people were warning you and you ignored them constantly? I got a date wrong. You got an ethos wrong, bitch. Like, your ideology is fucked up. Like, never allow someone to tell you that you're not allowed to be scared. You're not allowed to be concerned. You're not allowed to be angry because X hasn't happened before. And aren't you just being an alarmist? And other direct quote from the TV show Chernobyl, just ignore them. They no longer deserve to have any voice in public discourse, not to mention with you personally, if you were not dumb enough to be like, oh no, it'll all be fine because it's been fine before. You can't let them do it because they will, because it's comfier there. It's much comfier there to be like, well, I'm sure cooler heads will prevail. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got tons of evidence for that. Just keep on going.
Yeah, this one's so tricky for me because on the one hand, I think there is definitely some sentiment that is like dunk on them, like that's what you do now. And if there ever was a time to dunk on them, and the nice thing is like you don't even really have to dunk on them. Like you can just open your phone and show them pictures of Zip Tie Guy sliding down the banner in the Capitol and go, anyways, next round's on you.
I do want to make a point about zip tie guy. I know it's a bit of a tangent, but like Ben Shapiro said, oh, everyone has zip ties. But like if you look at his zip ties, they're zip cuffs. They're not just ties. They're clearly designed to put two hands and restrain them like handcuffs. Like normal people don't have zip handcuffs. They don't have zip cuffs. They have like, God.
Yeah, what about the gun?
Shapiro.
What about the gun? He also
he had a gun.
Yeah.
Kind of a red flag.
I know everybody has guns. I mean, yeah, that's the U.S., but
yeah. Anyway, sorry. I hate the zip tie argument, but
yeah,
I'm sorry.
So part of me wants to say dunk on him. Part of me wants to say when you get an opportunity to build a coalition, take an opportunity to build a coalition because that's how change happens. And so I think that there's an important distinction here, and that is to say that I don't know in this moment it is to treat all the people in that bucket as entity. Rather, it is to say, I really believe that for some people, this may have been or could have been a moment of awakening. It really may have shattered some expectation they had about the durability of democracy and or the durability of the Capitol Police Force. I don't know.
I don't disagree with that. I just think that those people who have been genuinely woken up by it are not going to resort to what is essentially a bullshit fallacy, the argument from president. It's not happening and you're crazy because it hasn't happened to me yet or before.
Yeah.
I'm saying when you hear that, it's too late. You didn't get them. And because they're resorting back to the not squaring the circle. They're ignoring the contradiction again. And I'm saying that it's a mistake to let them do that because that's going to give them power over you. It's not about recruiting them. It's about them giving them the power of their stupidity, which we can see now has power. If you are dumb enough and ignorant enough and wildly privileged enough to move through social norms, being too dumb to realize they exist for reasons is a form of superpower. And you can't let them have that. Like you gotta hold people to account because
that's
I'm not saying treat people as a group, but if someone responds to you with an argument for president, I would say absolutely people already have with me.
Yes.
It's not about you being afraid or not. It's about like them dunking on you for not predicting the future, which they didn't either. And your actions, if you took anything to prepare for this or did anything to warn people of that, was in fact your acknowledgement that you can't predict the future. And that when dangerous futures become possible, we should do any kind of work to avoid them.
Yes, 100%.
And otherwise, people are just going to take the fact that, like, if they bring interest for it, an opportunity to dunk on you for the fact that, like, well, you predicted the Reichstag fire, and it was just a dude who tainted himself in the balls. Like, and that's just an attempt at social control, not an attempt at, like, expression of political thought.
Yeah, and I will tell you that the other day I was having a conversation, what I thought was a conversation about the shared shit show of all of this. And I found out very quickly as we actually got into the meat of the conversation about can you believe this happened, it suddenly became clear to me that the can you believe this happened part for them was that companies are taking Parler down and that Facebook has banned these and that Twitter has locked Trump's account. And the can you believe companies are doing this kind of thing and not in and really
real censorship, unlike being dragged out front on a lawn and shot. And from the place of precedent, that's just democracy in action.
the like wildly misunderstood free speech position that seems to underscore like all acts of maintaining the status quo. If someone starts a conversation or leads a conversation down that direction, there's no coalition to build here.
It's not misunderstood though, because like they would make the argument that they can like force your kid to pray because you paid to go to this private school, and by God, it's a private school, and there's no such thing as freedom of speech. The second it becomes a private institution, that's not something anything that democracy had to say over. They've made that argument their entire lives, and now it's just reversed because they don't have shame and they don't regard. They just square every distance. So
I don't think it's a lack of shame. I think there are a lot of people, the centrists, that are really devoted to this idea. Like like to say they're insulated is sort of like underestimating them. They're really basically they really do believe that they live in a world where like this is what society's told them, this is the way things are going to be, and that's it. They're, like the idea that external events, that external reality,
material reality, yeah.
Well, it's like that there's an external reality that can overwhelm their ideology, their political system is impossible. This is the end of history. We live in, this is the way things are, and that's just it. And the idea that like this entire system, there could be the idea of upheaval is a thing of the past. Like the idea that there could be an asteroid that strikes the earth and wipes everything out, that their entire political system could be overthrown, is utterly alien and repugnant to them and impossible. Like they literally cannot conceive of it because it's not within their, it's an outside context problem for them, because the system has basically encouraged people to think like that, like that this is the way things are and this is the way things are going to be for the rest of time. And it's just a lack, and they like that. It's addictive. It's comforting.
Yeah, but that's my argument. If you're still saying that shit after 1/6, then you're not coming out of that. Like
no,
that's
some
people
people
like they're going to be stealing your TV to pawn it. For
no,
drugs,
because there will be things worse than 1/6 it's sometime in the future.
I know, and that's not going to get them either. I think
no, I think it'll get a percentage of them. It won't get all of them, but like a growing percentage of them will be rudely awakened. But like there will always be there. It's never going to get 100%, but some of them will always believe that. But yeah, I don't think it's an absolute. Yeah, it's a spectrum.
I do think there has been a. I do think the events, particularly of the last, call it 4 months, have been slow and steady de-chunking, maybe, of the Trump iceberg. And I think that 1/6 was another de-chunking point. To your point, Caleb. Part of me wonders, like, how much farther would things have to go for another chunk to get lobbed off that didn't already occur on 1/6? But Russ, I don't know that you're totally off the boat here. I'm not sure that things don't go a lot farther on 1/20, for example, on Inauguration Day. And again, this goes back to, at this point, and I said this in the hot takes we've recorded on the coup, insurrection, call it what you want, we're past the point of prediction. I used to think I couldn't be shocked. Now I only expect to be shocked, and I don't know what shock's going to look like anymore.
Predict the point.
And so,
yeah,
right. Yeah, that's right. And so I don't know. I will say this. It is time for another beer, and I'm about to get this other Bianca series thing. And speaking of no longer being shocked.
Don't do 2 in an episode.
Let's take a vote. Should I do 2 in an episode, or should I save
we're not
one
that
for another one?
black-pilled.
Yes,
I'm pretty sad, but I'm not 2 Biancas in an episode sad. Like,
yeah. Because I do have like good beer in the fridge. Love yourself. That's a good point. That's what Justin Bieber's been saying for a long time. So, yeah, I'm going to go to the fridge.
Harris listens to it's Justin Bieber.
100%.
It's going to be a surprise. It's going to be a surprise. Is that it?
Yeah, I'm just going to reach in and grab something. We'll see what happens.
Awesome.
Hey, Spencer, this is a very Coup-berry episode.
Okay. I'm going to let you have that, even though I portmanteaued the fuck out of Coup and Blueberry during the break.
Yeah, I definitely stole it using the contents of our editing. Yeah.
I reached into the back of the fridge, just grabbed, I have a couple tall cans back there, grabbed tall can. It just so happened to be the other Omnipolo Bianca. So whatever. This is very on brand for 2021.
Yeah, if you leave it up to fate, it will screw you.
It got
if you
me
don't, it's
square
still
in the
probably
you know
going to
what.
screw you. Yeah.
It's exactly. It tased me square in the balls. So anyways, this is the Omnipolo Bianca Blueberry Maple Chocolate Peanut Butter Pancake Lassi Goza. And now I'm just getting mad at them for all the words.
It's a lot. It's a lot of words.
What?
And again, I get the smell of not good. So I'm excited to jump back into this giant can. Also, these are not cheap cans of beer, by the way. I think these are like $13 pulls.
Wow. So wait, you bought that as a single can?
I did.
Yeah. Wow.
Well,
What's
you
a
did too.
lassie?
We bought it. We bought it as a podcast, so we all
Lassie.
contributed to this. I want you to remember that, Spencer, as you hawk that down your throat.
Lassi is a
All of
popular
us did this
drink.
to you. Yeah.
It's a blend of yogurt, water, spices, and sometimes fruit. So, like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a
blend.
hell of a mix. You're just throwing everything in there. Like, it's,
Yeah.
For the love of
And
God,
it tastes
say
like
it.
that. It's a 1, people. Here's what this one tastes like. The other one, which again is just a lot of like weird, like bad tart followed by a thick crust of maple. And this one went the extra mile and was like, what if we kind of wrapped synthetic peanut butter around the maple? Just rounded it out a little bit with bad peanut butter flavor. Well, this is the beer you'd be drinking. And we'd call it Bianca.
That sounds disgusting.
It's horrible. I hate it.
Omnipolo is making a big push for the Please Stop Award of 2021 from the Mix Six. The much coveted Please No More.
Wait till we get an Omnipolo rule in place and we tweet about it. Or better yet, somebody else tweets about it, tags Omnipolo, and now they're following us. So anyways, this beer is bad. Thank you, stop. On this whole experiment you've got here, Omnipolo, no one wants this.
Look, sometimes you got to throw it up against the wall and see if it sticks. This went through the wall.
Yeah.
Just stop throwing things. Yeah.
Right down. So anyways, we're into Ask Mixed Six and Stephen Lee. Been a minute since we've heard from Stephen Lee, so I saw Stephen Lee's name, thought gotta see what's up with Stephen Lee. Stephen Lee, best question asker in the world, asks, friends, I believe he's talking to us there, and I appreciate the salutation. Friends, I need to come up with a new anonymous name for the internet. I made the mistake of making a username too much like my real name, and I'm not comfortable using it to interact with pure strangers on the internet. So how should I devise a new pseudonym, and what makes for a good pseudonym? So my hope here was 2 things. One, to immediately and publicly out the anonymity of Stephen Lee's new username by talking about the anonymous username for Stephen Lee in a non-anonymous, very public way. Because it seems like a weird path to get to anonymous username, but here we are. 2, I want us to pick a username for Stephen Lee, and I want to see if, within the confines of reasonability, he will commit to and begin using that as his username on the internet. That is the power that I want here.
I have a question, because Stephen, you're an iconoclast in my mind, a trailblazer, a one of a kind, an idol, really. That I if I listen to podcasts, I want to be like Stephen Lee as a podcast fan. You have the most generic name on earth. It's Steve and Lee. Like, are people really finding you? Or are they finding the other 10,000 people in the city with your name? Just don't turn off your location tagging, bro. You're fine.
Change your picture.
Yeah.
Just be a picture of someone else and still be Stephen Lee. And you have anonymized yourself to the nines.
If your name was anonymous, there would be less people named the same as you than if you were named Stephen Lee. I'm just saying, it's a generic name, man. I think you're okay. That said, we need to reflect your individual power.
That's right.
In an internet name to let the idiots on the cyberspace know to fear you.
Right.
Right. I suggest a word that is both fancy and difficult to spell, so you might find it original. So like prescient, that'd be good. And describe your questions.
Ross hates that.
No.
I'm very good with the 72 demons of the Ars Goetia. Some of them have wonderful names. They might teach you astronomy. Or to find precious things that have been lost.
Oh yeah, we know. No, powerful usernames are one of 3 things. One, absolute nonsense like drill.
Fucking rules.
King of Twitter. At DRIL, he is a god of Twitter. 2, video game characters. 3, anime characters. And then 4, 420 or 69. That's it. That's the formula.
What's your fucking username? At Ross Payton?
No. I do not have that powerful a name. My name was I don't even know how I came up with it. My
So
username.
you're recommending Steven, our friend, go full Weed Lord Boner Hitler 426.
No, not Hitler. I said anime and video games. I didn't mention anything about dictators. Or
well,
yeah. All right. So Goku.
Why would I have
Goku
conflated
Rockstar
those two
420.
things?
Goku Evanescence 420 or 69. That would be amazing. Sephiroth Goku 69. Very powerful.
And you
We
say you
need
don't
to take
have
a
a
minute.
job in
We
the
need to take a
business
minute.
world? I don't
Yeah.
believe that.
I
What
I
with you
just wanna
signing
reflect-
emails like that?
I want to.
We're talking about
reflect on-
usernames. We're talking about email signatures. Jeez.
No,
Yeah.
we're missing the boat here.
Okay.
This whole thing has been ruined. Well, not ruined, but certainly obfuscated. We need to reflect on how smugly and certainly Ross Payton just asserted, first and foremost, that there were 3 conventions for usernames. Then rattled off those conventions as smugly or certainly as he's never said anything, only to then on the fly add a 4th convention, which he had not smugly or certainly asserted earlier in the process, and then just started generating, as a bot might, usernames based on those 4 conventions. That was like a moment where you see through the veil. Like there's,
Only real gamers know the 4th rule.
It was a flow state. I've never seen Ross in a flow state before, but he was outside of his body watching us as he handed out the rules of internet gods. Having said that, I think that portmanteaus make for good usernames. I think that favorite characters from childhood make for good usernames. So I am, for example, on most platforms, Egon Zord. Egon from, of course, Ghostbusters, and then Zord as a reflection of both Megazord, but also the Zords, which were a part of a gaming community I was a part of, thanks to the Kevin Ellis, etc.
Yeah, we have joined communities and usernames.
Right,
Maybe that's
right.
it. Maybe find a suffix or a prefix that you and your friends.
Right. You've got Cthulhu Zord on a
Yeah.
couple of different platforms, and I think that's pretty good.
You could form sort of a gang and go around and like stealing kids' ice cream and kicking sand in people's faces on the internet. Yeah. Let them
I think
know that
that's
you
not
came.
bad.
Let them know you came rolling deep. I don't know. Be a Zord. I don't know. Kevin probably doesn't care. Yeah, get in there.
Yeah, Kevin would be. I think Kevin would like the idea that good people joining the Zord community. Now, let me offer some portmanteaus or what I think are some good plays on words here for Steven. So, Steven, good at the questions. So I think something like Q Stephen A. Because it's like Q&A with his name in the middle of
You
it.
got to be careful with
I think-
you, though, especially with the subject. of
Maybe
this.
not. Maybe not. I think that BQA Steven could be good for best question asker Steven. Like, I think that's adequate. I think when people ask, you can tell them you're part of a cool community, or you can tell them about the lizard people pedophiles, or you could tell them that you're a great question asker, and then it's a chance to pitch the next 6, and I appreciate that. So I think you got some options here. I think if you want to lean into your last name, you could be General Lee, or check this out, General Lee Steven. No, listen.
No.
General Lee Steven.
No.
Like generally-
No. What are you doing?
General Lee Steven. General Lee Steven.
General Lee.
General Lee. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Well, it's not the best look, but I certainly
It's
not.
a bad
Best
look.
Spencer 2021.
Okay, but follow me down the wordplay trail.
No.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't want to. You put a sign on the wordplay trail for a scary
You
scary group of
suggested
people. I don't want to go down that
Boner
way.
Hitler 420. I feel like I've stayed.
I was mocking Ross's suggestion as I now must
Wow.
mock yours because
Wow.
it is equally
Wow.
bad.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Steven, my advice is not to listen to us.
No.
Thank you
One
for
Punch
asking
Steve.
questions.
One Punch Man plus Steve. One Punch Steve. There. Done. One Punch Steve 69. Even better.
Yeah, no one's taken that, Ross. No,
Maybe not.
No one has thought of Steve 69 before.
No, One
That
Punch
one for
Steve.
sure is available.
One Punch Man, on One Punch Man, and now it's Steve though. It's not One Punch Man. It's One Punch Steve.
I'm not the editor, so I can't cut segments, but we need to stop. I need you to stop. And we need more beer.
Honest Steve Lee. There we go, because he's a man of integrity and truth. I kind of like that. stevia-ly, like
I'm leaving to
sweet.
get more beer. Like if
Right.
you continue the segment, I will not be on it. I just want.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
going
no.
now.
Now I'm just freestyling. This is me. This is my moment. Do not miss your chance to flow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. Caleb, what are you drinking?
I am drinking from Prairie Artisan Ale, something we think we've had before, but we can't find on the list. So we'll see.
So we're just going
Millennial Mansion. It's an imperial sour ale with orange peel, lemon peel, lime, blueberry, the theme of the episode, and cherry and marshmallow flavor. So I put a period there as if it was a complete sentence because it is that long, but it is not. It is just the title of the beer.
And they just,
So,
they
I'm
just
going to drink.
Yep.
breweries just love throwing in a ton of stuff.
This has been their thing now. Just treat
Well,
it all
not
like
just-
Jamba Juice.
Like fucking the one I was drinking had like 3 different types of fruit in it. Like
Yeah.
yours had a bunch of different stuff in it, including lassi, which was like, what the fuck? Why
Yeah.
would you do that?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
I like it.
Mhm.
It tastes like the white foam at the bottom of like an orange Julius.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, the
That is a-
marshmallow
that is a-
flavor is
yeah.
far more forward than I thought. But you
Okay.
get kind
Yes.
of like fruity marshmallow,
Yeah.
but melted.
Do you know what I liked about it? I had it a few weeks ago. I liked that it didn't just taste like Flair with something else in it. Like it
Yes.
actually had a decidedly different flavor for Prairie Artisan Ales, and I welcome that. Not to diminish
And
the
we
power of
probably
Flair.
repeated this beer, but I am also out of beer very soon. So we're doing what we can.
These are the breaks, people. COVID.
All right, what are we talking about?
This was your number 2 vote getter, Mix 6 mock draft. And Laura B. Hi, Laura. Hope you're well. Laura B. suggests the Mix 6 mock draft. Team to stage a coup on the fantasy stereotypically evil emperor's castle. And here's the trick. Team members have to be from video game franchises. Now, Caleb, you have built our generic categories here of team members to draft from the coup. So who will we be filling spots for?
Well, you need a shaman, obviously,
Right.
for magic
Obviously.
attacks. You need a
Or for
zip tie
standing in the middle
guy.
of the
You need a
hall.
zip tie guy as a utility character. He's got all the equipment.
Right.
You need a desk idiot for like a short of like devil may care Han Solo character to sit at Nancy Pelosi's desk for and then get arrested. And then you also need a woman who doesn't know where she is because she's got like a River Tam energy. She's like grandma that is confused is about to go off. So you really need some video game characters that can fit these archetypes if you want to succeed, as well as the quote unquote patriots of the coup that we've been talking about this episode. So who wants to go first? I don't have a die nearby.
I'll go first. Look at me go.
Get in there.
See that? Just reach out and grab it.
Yeah,
I'm going to start at the top.
It's in the air. Just take it. Yeah.
This is me. You can't see me, but I'm just grabbing stuff out of the air now as if to illustrate my approach to this mock draft. So I'll start with the shaman character, or in this case, a reference to the actual human walking around the halls of the Capitol as if dressed as a shaman. And in this instance, I've thought back to one of my most favorite video game franchises that I've not encountered in years. And as I was thinking about this mock draft and I got to think about this character, I got almost longing feelings for this. It is Aku Aku. Aku Aku is the voodoo mask from Crash Bandicoot that just kind of floats off in space and kind of guides you around and doesn't actually do all that much for you, but is like around all of the time and makes a bunch of like nonsensical noises and occasionally has some nonsensical things to say to you as if they're giving you direction. But in reality, the game is giving you direction because it's a platformer. So Aku
So you want
Aku
something
is
to just
there.
eat scenery in an image, basically.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And have the kind of faux importance or power that someone who might dress like that and do that kind of thing would do.
So the shaman's sort of like a waypoint.
Yeah.
A rally point. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
My shaman, I went in a different direction. I went with Kratos from God of War. So here's the thing. The more toxically masculine and anarcho-primitivist you can make that class, the funnier and better it would be. Like, the fact that that idiot was not covered in the ashes of his dead family and swinging around foam chaos blades that he picked up at Toys R Us when it closed down is a tragedy, really. It's just a missed comedic opportunity. So if you're going to pick from video game characters, you got to get Kratos in there.
Yeah.
Defending his boy. Yeah.
I like the idea too, because there is a sense of almost overly wrought faux masculinity at the heart of all of that.
Oh yeah. And you don't get better than Kratos. Yeah.
Both actions. Right. Yeah. Okay. Who are we going? Oh yeah. Ross.
For my shaman, I was thinking two, but I think I've narrowed it down. So my first thought was actually the wizard from Gauntlet. He needs food badly. But now that I think about it, he doesn't bring a lot else to the table. You know who'd bring a lot more to the table? Shang Tsung. He's a wizard. He has magic. He's very shamanic in that regards, and he can literally change to be whoever he needs to be. He can get past guards. He can be the guards. He has a lot. He brings a lot to the table. Also, his motivations are pretty clear. He wants to take over. He wants to be in control. So I think he'd be really motivated.
He would also get along with everyone because he doesn't see race. Because he can be any race.
That's true.
By stealing the soul of his enemy.
You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No big deal. Caleb, Snake Draft, who are we drafting next?
Zip Tie Guy is going to be Doom Guy. You need someone with roughly that much inventory space when one guy is dressed for war and he's leading an army of people that are probably wearing Crocs. You're really going to need maximum inventory carrying capacity. So it's got to be Doom Guy because there are no pockets on that little green armor. And yet he's got 14 guns in there, which is still not enough because, again, I cannot stress how woefully unprepared everyone was. But if you really need maximum inventory. It's only because like Skyrim or like a Fallout character probably would not engage in this kind of behavior. But you just maximize your inventory capacity. Yeah.
So I had a similar thought, but mine was instead thinking of a video game character who seemed so in stark contrast to his setting as to create a sense of size, scope, importance, etc., and who is also so ego-driven and bloviating as to be annoying by simply being himself. And so I've chosen Duke Nukem. He feels like the kind of person who would have the gall to do something like that and bring that kind of energy and equipment to the United States Capitol and appear so in juxtaposition to the world around him. And he also feels like the kind of guy who would then go talk about it at a strip club very loudly while trying to get women to take their clothes off. So Duke Nukem. Yeah. Ross?
I was actually thinking similar FPS protagonist, a white dude who doesn't say a lot and shoots a lot of people and is really good with like inventory items. So I was actually going to say Gordon Freeman.
Oh no, not
yeah. I know.
He's a physicist, Ross. We can't have lost Gordon.
I'm sorry, Caleb. That was my first instinct. My backup choice was the Minecraft guy, Steve the Minecrafter. Because again,
okay, well, Mojang would support that entirely. So that makes sense.
Okay, all right, but like someone who is good with weapons and probably has access to crafting menus. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Importantly has access to those. Okay, let's just move down the list. Let's go with Desk Idiot. And I think that's the registered birth certificate name for this gentleman. But if not, here's the video game character I've chosen. I was a big fan of like late 90s, early 2000s wrestling games. So like name one for the PlayStation and or related. I probably had it and loved it. WCW Thunder, WCW Nitro, WWF Monday Night Raw. Just keep going. There was a particular arc in Hulk Hogan's career where he was a member of the NWO, which was really an effort at the end of Hulk Hogan's, what should have been the end of Hulk Hogan's wrestling career.
The heel turn.
The heel turn. He was too out of shape to actually be good at wrestling anymore, but he was more than loud and brazen enough to continue to be a wrestler. And so the NWO was a really good fit for him. It was like a good heel turn, gave him lots of airtime, allowed him to wear these like starkly contrasting black and white colors and dye his mustache in weird and fun ways. And Desk Idiot reminds me of the dad on Orange County Choppers, but he's not a video game guy. So I went with the video game version of that guy, and that is the late 90s, early 2000s Hulk Hogan NWO in any video game character.
That's fair. I went with someone that is going to be brazen, violate norms, be low class, and be punished for it in a satisfying way. So I went with a character who is literally designed to do that and nothing else. It's Wario. Wario is the kind of man that would put his feet up and fart on Nancy Pelosi's desk. That man had Wario energy. That's going to draw a lot of heat off of your insurrection by just being hateable AF. Wario is the only man for that job.
Immaturity. Oh, man. Ross.
Actually, I was thinking very similar to Caleb, but I was thinking actually Street Fighter. So I don't know how versed you are in the Street Fighter lore, but there's a character who's a pale imitation of Ken and Ryu, Dan. Dan wears a pink outfit and is just shittier than Ken and Ryu in every single way. And he's a joke character. Like, he is purposely made worse. Like that joke from that movie, we trained him wrong on purpose as a joke. Like, that's Dan as a character. So like Dan is basically that guy. And so very, very strong Dan energy there. Yeah.
Big Dan energy, BDE. Last one, grandma/lady who doesn't know where she is. Caleb, you're up first.
So this is the person that wandered in there by mistake and doesn't know what's happening. It's Kirby. Kirby is confused. He just saw the crowd running and he thought there were snacks because someone lied to him in the back. Someone gave him an American flag. He's just happy to be on camera. Kirby
endlessly.
Yeah, Kirby has wandered into the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, that's mine.
I tried to think of a video game character who would wander around and look clueless, not because they were in fact clueless, but rather because they could not understand what was
because they were
on.
suffering dementia.
And so I thought, what video game character would be put in that position and would struggle to comprehend the levels of stupidity happening in that moment, and so therefore would look aimless when they were in fact attempting to seek meaning. And so I've chosen Samus from Metroid, who would be so shocked that this is what all of this was about upon arriving here, and is so used to fighting highly skilled, highly trained, mechanized, weaponized aliens, to then land in what we perceive of as a battle situation and to find a bunch of people walking around in vests wearing hats that say "Make America Great Again" and taking selfies in front of statues. It would have the appearance of haplessness or aimlessness, but it instead would just be shock and confusion. Producer Ross.
So I just sent you a link to, this is a character from upcoming, I'm going to take a bold stance. This is a character from upcoming video game from Resident Evil 8, which is not out yet, but there is a very tall lady in that game who is apparently a vampire. She's like 10 feet tall. And I'm just, she does, and she's evil. She's a vampire. And so I'm just guessing, evil motives or whatever. But yeah, like her, we don't know what her motives are. We don't know even her name, but she's there for some reason. She's there for all that social.
So you want a sort of titan to be okay.
Yeah.
Very large lady. Okay.
She is very tall, and she also has claws for hands, apparently. So.
And would look even larger standing next to Kirby, for example.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Quite Laurel and Hardy rather quickly. What a scene we've.
But the internet is very thirsty for her. So, we got that viral marketing. So we got that going for us. Yeah.
The internet, ProPublica is certainly thirsty for these people. So,
Bellingcat, the FBI,
exactly right.
certain unmarked vans,
a lot of artists, a lot of people with DeviantArt accounts. It's fun.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget you can always vote for your favorite Mix 6 mock draft team. # Team Caleb, # Team Ross, or # Team Spencer. And on that note, we've got one beer left, and we'll be right back for Drunk Enough.
Hey Ross, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a beer I'm very surprised we actually haven't done before, which is almost a gas station beer, which is a New Belgium Voodoo Ranger IPA. And that's it. Like that's the whole thing. It's bursting with tropical aromas and fruit flavors from Mosaic and Amarillo hops.
It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not. It is like the gas station IPA. Sierra Nevada used to be like gas station IPA to me. Like you could find it pretty much everywhere. It was one of the few like big run. Yep. Ugh. That's right.
What's it to again?
Response.
Like again,
It's Cops.
Yeah. That makes sense for Voodoo Ranger. It's not the worst. Like if you like IPAs,
Not as common and about as welcome.
Yeah. Like it's not undrinkable. I'll probably drink some more of this, but like it's just hops and like they kind of linger for a bit and like I don't really.
I'll say that you know exactly what you're getting when you open that beer. Like it doesn't do anything it's not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It is the thing that like you would find in every cooler at your friend's party on a rooftop from like 2015 to 2020. So, I appreciate New Belgium. They've done a good job of making craft beer, and I use that kind of loosely accessible. Some of their beer I actually think is pretty good. 1554 is a beer that I happen to like. But by and large, no thank you to that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just basic. It's not that even that exciting. It's not even that bad. It's bad, but it's not like horrible. You know what I mean? It's just
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
I can't be mad at it for being exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I just don't like what it is.
Yeah.
Hey, we're into Drunk Enough, and not to belabor the act of sedition which occurred and our incoherent and sad thoughts about it, but instead to talk about what, if anything, has brought you through. In Drunk Enough, I have this question for you. So here we are, and the thing happened, and now there is still a need to like wake up and keep going and tell yourself that things matter and that there's something like order or something more essential and binding to this community, this social contract that still exists, and it is all important, and therefore we should just continue to trudge ahead. And some days that takes less of an intentional act. It's easier, I'm more naturally rosy or whatever. And other days it takes a very intentional act for me to feel like there is some communal pull here, which I ought still aspire to, and kind of keeps me moving. And so I'm curious, in the interceding 12 days since 1/6, what, if anything, have y'all been using as a tool, a story, a narrative, a trick, a strategy to keep on keeping on, to keep moving, to get through the bullshit, to that you would call a ray of light? I don't know. I'm out of metaphors.
Sure.
Honestly, I didn't start with that many, so it was a short list. But what, if anything, are you using as a tether here to the future?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why don't you help us out with what you're doing first? Because when you came to me looking for the light at the end of the rainbow or something, what did you imagine? How do you imagine this going down? Like,
Yeah.
But
I mean,
for
I can
you,
talk about
I'm
this.
interested to hear, so I can avoid talking about those things.
Right.
So
Yeah,
what do you got going on?
I will admit that when I thought I'm going to ask Ross and Caleb for a pro-optimism approach to anything that has happened in the last 12 days. It's a little bit, but it's a little bit like the point in the zombie movie where you're like, I don't know, can we hit him with a can of paint? Where you're just looking for anything that may exist in the world that you might be able to. But I am curious. I mean, I have done a few things, or I've tried a few things. I will admit that over the last 12 days, I have actively tried on, so to speak, different strategies at different times to see if like this makes me feel better or worse. But Ross was ready to jump in. So Ross, I'm curious what you've been doing.
So, for one thing, it didn't like actually disturb me that much because it's just like I have been following this sort of shit pretty closely. And so I was like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Like that was my first reaction. It's like, yeah, I could see that. This was not a big surprise. So it wasn't like my worldview was like there was not a great upheaval in my worldview. So for me, obviously, like, but I mean, there was some like, that's not great. That's not a great look for the world for everything. One thing obviously was talking to friends online, talking to Maddie, of course, knowing that, ideally that Maddie will be moving here and, I'll be reunited and getting married this year. So like that's been like a rock of stability. Another thing has just been like comforting trash. And by that, I mean media, movies, TV and video games. And just knowing that like I don't have to like watch those art movies I've been putting on as much. So, or been wanting to watch, like not challenging myself. So taking it easy in terms of my media consumption habit. And I think that's been helpful. I think, and just being like, we made a regular habit of being able to talk with friends online and having sort of an online hangout. And that's been very helpful, in terms of keeping like, of course, because this was sort of compounded, right? With like the pandemic and we're all alone and we can't just like go to a bar and hang out and talk shit and like, commiserate and socialize. And so that's been a good substitute. So, but I think
we sort of constructed a family of choice in the tub.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's foolish to pretend
the tub,
with our allergy to earnest.
Yeah, is a community of people who get together and watch trashy movies, not like a family of choice in a tub, like
not a hot tub. No, we're following pandemic protocols. It's a virtual tub.
Yeah, virtual tub.
Yeah. So,
but. As silly as that seems, I would argue it's a infinitely more healthy family praxis than what the majority of families in America engage in at your average Thanksgiving. But that has definitely helped me a lot. I forgive myself for pretty much everything now, which is probably bad in the long run, but I have really taken it easy on myself. Like,
thank God.
Observe things. I mean, there's a timeline concern on this kind of thing, but like you look at like people from like history during like the curse, may you live in interesting times. It was just like, I was a doctor in the old country, but now I'm a jerkline skinner of mules and I have made do. And people who have just rolled with it, who have just been like, okay, whatever happens, I'm going to accept it. I don't have a whole lot of control of it. My life will be radically different than what I ever thought it would be. And I need to just mourn the fact that those ideas didn't come to pass. And whatever I end up being next, that's what I end up being. And you know what? It's understandable because we're all going to have weird trauma and we're all going to go a little bit insane because of this shit. And I assure you that wherever I end up is not going to be as bad as a lot of people. It's going to be utterly forgivable and mundane and maybe even noble if I do it right. I may be a homeless weirdo on the street, but if you could be Emperor Norton, I mean, why not? Go out like a legend, like believe you're the king of San Francisco, demand free drinks from people. Like, so that's really what I've been going about. I guess, an excuse, but like anybody telling me how I should live my life.
Mm-hmm.
Not willing to hear it. Not, if I'm doing something you haven't done before, again, argument from president. I don't care.
I think there's a thing about like understanding history and like understanding historical context. I mean, like the thing that I keep thinking back is reading up about Mesoamerican civilizations. You'll be like, we have this great civilization. We're everything's working fine, and then we everything sort of worked out. All our past conflict. We may have civil wars or whatever, but they're working on. And then these assholes. Well, there's these things coming in from the eastern shores, and we don't know what they are. Oh, they're boats, and there's people coming in there. What the fuck's going on? Like, there are outside context problems that could happen, and like once you understand that you are not apart from history, you exist within history. These things can happen to you. Like, it's not really good to realize that at first, but then like it's kind of like lessens the impact of big historical upheavals that happen in your lifetime. So like that's and that's something I've kind of like internalized. So maybe internalize that, like recognize that like things that have never happened before can happen to you, because that's how it's always happened. So like, yeah,
they always happen to somebody.
Exactly. You
right.
Get it, Spencer. Yeah. So
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's both great. I mean, I think, getting some, Russ, what you're really describing is like getting some context for the scope of all of this and saying like, well, this is how these things go. And it's okay that you're a part of that too. And also it is not necessarily the end of things. I have waited 20 some years to hear Caleb. He's giving himself some excuses or some grace or some forgiveness. So that's just the most exciting thing I've heard in forever.
I mean, I also referenced a notorious homeless man for the outcome of that. So just want you to tap the brake on the expectations there.
No, in this moment, I'm choosing to hear one and not the other. And
fair enough. Fair enough.
I would tell you, I have, and I'm like unapologetic about this. I am fortunate that I get to actively detach. I have the means or space or distance or whatever to actively detach myself from these things sometimes, and I am thankful for that. And so I have like torpedoed myself into things that actively make me feel better over the last 12 days. And so media that makes me feel better about people, I have overwatched. I've watched Ted Lasso twice, like the whole series twice in the last 12 days. You know why? Because it's got a lot of heart and it's wholesome and it's earnest and it's about people being good. And that makes me feel good right now. I am like diving into some books that I've been wanting to read that are totally escapist fiction. They're not here to like push me or make me. It's like shit that I've wanted to read for a while, and I've just not committed the time to it. And I can't think of a better moment where like now would be okay to go read some escapist fiction. There was this one big project at work that was like looming over me, and I kept putting it off and I kept putting it off. And so finally I set an external deadline with other people so that I was accountable to something, so I could pour myself into and be distracted by this one big thing I wanted to get done. And I don't know that it's healthy. I'm not going to really comment on its healthiness because what's healthy for me may not be healthy for you, so on and so forth. It has been terribly healthy for me. And it's also been stuff that has helped me get good with, it has helped me keep my energy up. And if I can keep my energy up, I can be available to people around me who also need help. And if I can provide that help and have energy, then that's good. And so I have been prioritizing my energy in ways that, if needed, it's also available and can do other things for other humans. And that's been my tether here. And I'm good with that. There were a few days where I was like, man, this is the second time in 4 days I've watched this Ted Lasso episode at 10 p.m. And the moment I let that stuff creep in and start to judge my behaviors, which are really aimed at like making sure I'm in a good place so that I can be an effective team member, leader, partner, friend, whatever. Now there's like nowhere to turn. And so I've just been giving myself space to do that stuff in hopes that it pans out and plays out for everybody. And it's been an okay method so far. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that what's happening around us is a fucking nightmare. And I don't make any bones about my material position that allows me to do that. I understand exclusively how fortunate I am in my ability to do those things. That doesn't mean I'm not going to take the opportunity in this moment. So, whatever you're doing, we hope you're finding something that is kind of helping you trudge along, because some days trudging feels like a big win in and of itself. And we hope that this podcast can continue to be a part of your regimen if it helps you feel a little bit better about whatever you've got going on in your day. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. Don't forget to find us on all of your major streaming and social channels. You can also find us on pretty much wherever podcasts are sold. Don't forget to rate and review us in that application so that people can find the Mix 6 podcast. Can't tell you how much we appreciate you. Hope you're well. I'm Spencer.
I'm Caleb.
We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah. So many beers, it's hard to pick all the best moments we are taken with. So now we look back and we all reminisce the memorable ones from the Mix 6.
That was me hitting a Pilot G2 pen against my Glencairn glass to make a clink noise.
I did a whole pop.
I did a clink from my glass to my water glass to my Blue Moon bottle.
Oh no, did my pop filter get the champagne pop?
I don't know.
No.
We'll find out.
God no.